Hello YouTube. Today I'm gonna be doing my very first comic book read along, if you like to say, of Avenging Spider-Man #1, and I'm gonna keep on doing these videos every time a new Avenging Spider-Man comic comes out, and this is the first one. And just for a little information, the second volume or issue, whatever you want to call it, I prefer calling it volume. So the second volume is gonna come out December 7th of 2011, and yeah, this is a monthly comic. Unfortunately, they're not very long, but whatever. That's the great part about comics, and that's the way they make money. They just keep you waiting and in suspense. Uh, just a little information. Zeb Wells writes the dialogue. Joe Madureira, the legendary Joe Madureira, that is, he draws everything out. And let me read the. I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name. His name is Farron Daniel, Furran Daniel, or Ferran Daniel. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I'm not familiar with him. He does the coloring. Very good job, I have to admit, by all of them. But all right, so let's get started. So this is just a advertisement of a new comic. It's called Avengers Sanction. Um, I'm sure you can see the picture just fine. You can see Iron Man, Captain America, Red Hulk, Wolverine, Spider-Man over here. I don't know what this is about. I'm not going to explain it because I just want to make this strictly Avenging Spider-Man. So, anyways, I'm just going to read the comic because I know I'm doing this for one very reason. I know some people want to get into this comic. They want to know about it. They want to read it. They just don't have the time or money to actually go out and buy it. So, I'll read it to you. Uh, so it says, this is Spider-Man talking in his head. First panel. He says, "I know what you're thinking. I know what you're gonna say. Uh, you got a girl. You got girl problems. A full-time job. Membership on any superhero team that will take you, uh, including 2 separate teams of Avengers." And then he says to himself, "Spider-Man, where do you find the time?" And then he says out loud while beating down, I think it's AIM agents, and he says, "4 down, what's next?" And he's fighting alongside the Avengers, and you can see Hawkeye, Spider-Woman, and I'm pretty sure these guys, right here, I'm pretty sure they're AIM soldiers or whatever you call them, and you can see Wolverine over here. Okay, so Uh, the other Avengers, they're fighting a giant robot, and Red Hulk says, uh, "What does it look like, Princess?" And Spider-Man says, "Oh, right." And you can see Thor and, Iron Man and Captain America. And, Spider-Man says, "Let's call a spade a spade. I'm not bringing down a giant robot." Spider-Woman says to him, uh, "What's the matter? We're saving the world, and you got somewhere better to be." And Spider-Man says, "Well, actually, I haven't slept in like." He stops and he sighs and says, "Can't even riff with a giant robot." And then in his mind again, he says, "So about your question, how do I find the time to be an Avenger and your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?" And in this panel, they're getting ready for a marathon. They're running a race. I think that's what it's called. That's what a marathon is. And then you can see 2 people setting up cones, and then Spider-Man in his mind says again, "How do I always make it back to New York City, just in time to deal with my stuff?" And then you can see a picture of J. Jonah Jameson. He says, "Well, the truth is, sometimes," and you can see the hand of a creature, and we'll find out what those creatures soon. And then in this panel, he says, "I don't." And the creatures are ripping up J. Jonah Jameson's poster. Next page. Sorry, I'm trying to make sure you see the whole thing. All right, so then J. Jonah Jameson says, uh, "Let's get this over with, so you jogging hippies can get back to wearing normal clothes like normal human beings." Uh, he starts the race with the gun, and not that he's shooting anyone. That's just how they start the gun, start the race, and a whole bunch of people racing and running, and then some of the people say jogging hippies, and then you can see them running, and then you can see the creatures coming up, and then all these people are scared and they say, "Oh my god." And excuse me while I just put something underneath this. I don't want to scratch up the comic book. And then you can see all these creatures all around. They're just screeching, no real dialogue. And then here's just a page. On this page, it gives a little background story about Spider-Man, and on this page, just a little background story on Red Hulk. Alright, so I guess I'll just read it to you, and I'm gonna have to flip the comic book over because it's not really important. For Spider-Man's story, it says, while attending a demonstration in radiology, high school student Peter Parker was bitten by a spider which had accidentally been exposed to radioactive rays. Through the miracle of science, Peter soon found that he gained the spider's powers and had, in fact, become a human spider. From that day on, he was the avenging Spider-Man. And then the Hulk story, or Red Hulk, I should say, General Thaddeus, I hope I'm saying that right, General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross, or General Ross, was a decorated war hero who fiercely hunted the Hulk. After several futile years of chasing the original Green Goliath, Ross sought vengeance and made a pact for power with the evil intelligentsia or Telehencia. Imbued with the powers of super strength, energy absorption, and gamma radiation, he now seeks redemption as Hulk. So I don't know anything. I mean, I don't really know too much about the Red Hulk's background. I don't know his background story. I'm not familiar with him. I do know about him, but I don't know his full background story because I've never been into the Hulk, but whatever. So, we're starting over here. It says, um, Spider-Man's like, no one's going back. No one's going back to New York. Am I the only one with a job? And then Spider-Man also says, come on, somebody has to take me. And Captain America says, we owe the local authorities an explanation, Spider-Man. I can't. I can't. And then Spider-Woman says, not it. Uh, and then Captain America says, what? Oh, not it. And then Hawkeye says, not it. And Wolverine says, not it. Thor says, Norai. And Iron Man says, not it. And then Hulk says, what are you idiots doing? And Iron Man says, Hulk, you tend to panic civilians anyway. Can you jump Spider-Man back to New York without dropping him? And then we move down here. He says, if he keeps, and then Hulk says, if he keeps his mouth shut, and then Spider-Man says, someday I'll learn how to fly the jet. And then Wolverine says, heard that one before. And then Hulk growls or goes grr, and then Spider-Man says, how should we do this? I could web up a backpack, and we could do a Luke and Yoda thing, or, and then Hulk grabs him by the arm, And then Spider-Man says, or you could pretend to be my abusive boyfriend. And the thing I like about the Spider-Man in this Marvel universe is the fact that he still retains his comedic side. That's what I like. A lot of Spider-Man comics, they tend to get rid of his comedic side just because they want him to be a more serious superhero. And then we see the Hulk jump, Red Hulk jump with Spider-Man in his arm, which I don't know how that didn't pull his arm out of his socket, but whatever. All right, I kind of have to speed it up. I probably only have like 15 minutes left. I mean, 5 minutes left, and I don't think I'm really gonna make it through. If I read fast, I'll make it through. So, all right, J. Jameson says New York City is under attack, and they call me a psycho when I demanded real bullets for this thing, and and then his agent says, "Sir, about that," and then the creatures are attacking him, and then Jameson tries to shoot them, and he says, "Eat that, Bilbo," and the creatures get to him, and he's like, "Blanks, oh you patronizing sons of," and then he stops in mid-sentence. Spider-Man gets an incoming communication call, I guess, from another member, and he says, got it, Tony, we're on our way." And then he says, "There's trouble, there's trouble on the George Washington Bridge, looking like, looks like it's up to us." Red Hulk says, "Up to me." He says, "Up to me. If I were running with that aimbot is any indication." And then Spider-Man says, "That was a." Sorry, I can't read this backwards. Oh, um, then Hulk says to Spider-Man, uh, "That was 1,000 tons of metal on more of a precision instrument." And Hulk says, "How so?" And then Spider-Man says, "Well, for instance, take my newly returned," and then he gets his spider sense, and he says, "Spider sense," and then he yells, "Incoming," because there's a whole bunch of birds or seagulls flying towards them. Hulk and Spider-Man says, "Wait." Hulk claps, and I guess with the force he blows all of them away. And then he says, "Birds. They were just birds. You didn't have to." And then, "You didn't have to." He stops because Hulk interrupts him, and he says, "You said incoming." And then Spider-Man's like, "I did say that." And then we get to this part, and you see all these monsters or creatures are carrying away Jameson, and he says, "Did you little?" He curses. I don't know why they censor it right here. "You little, let's just say bastards, uh, tore a hole in my street." And then he says, "I hope you've been saving your your. Hold on." And he says, "I hope you've been saving your leprechaun gold because this is coming out of your." He stops, and then Hulk appears, and one of the creatures says like "what," but he screeches it, and you can see Red Hulk's massive foot. And I might just have to split this in two parts. But Spider-Man says, "Someone yell, someone yell for some Kool-Aid." Yeah, Spider-Man's like, "Someone yell for some Kool-Aid," and then Red Hulk says, "What the hell? What the hell are you? What the hell are you talking about?" And says, "I'm just amusing myself. Don't worry about it." And then Jameson says, "Son of a, the costume, the costume creeps are tearing up my street too. And then he says, "Hey, big, red, and ugly, uh, it it take it easy." Oh, he says, "Hey, big, red, and ugly, take it easy." And then the creature says something. Well, he doesn't actually say something, but he has like this thing in his hand. And I'll cut this video in two parts.